Welcome back to Living with a Classic, and today we're back with this Daimler Coupe. It's a manual, so 4-speed with overdrive. And the last video on this car, we removed the cylinder head, and I told you that the owner has a restored cylinder head going on it. It was done like a lot of years ago, so it's been laying on the shelf. So I took it to machine shop and just double checked it is perfectly straight and everything. And all the valves and everything look new, so that's really, really good. And then I've done small things to it. I took all the valves out of it and replaced the rubber part of the valve stem seal, put all that back together, and I've shimmed all the clearances and tappets, so it's all ready to go back onto the car. Speaking of the car, nothing has been done with it so far. So we're going to start with cleaning up the block, doing things like that. And hopefully the cylinder head will be on in the end of this video, and the next video on this car, hopefully it fires up. So let me show you what the cylinder head looks like, and then we'll fix up the block. So here is the cylinder head. As you see, the valves are all really nice on it. And what I replaced is all of these. These are old ones, so those are the rubber valve stem seals. And I put some on the exhaust side as well, because they fit on there, and that does help things out quite a bit. I have also done the tappets with the shims. Here's a really thin one. So that's all in spec and good to go. If you want to know how to do that, I've had several videos on it in the past, both on doing the valve stem seals and all that, and lapping valves. These all look really good. And also setting the clearance. So let's go and clean up the block. So here is the block, and it looks really, really good. So the issue with this engine was probably not the block. It wasn't a blown head gasket either. The issue just was the valves were not really sealing. So it was quite low on compression because of that, but the rest of the engine seems fine. And that's really just because it was sitting for a long time in a bit of a damp environment without an intake and without an exhaust manifold. And yeah, lost some moisture in the head, but not too much in the cylinders. So that's really, really good. There actually nothing in the cylinders. So what we're going to do is clean off everything and put it back together. This is like a paint scraper, but I've rounded the edges on it, and it's very, very soft, so it's not going to make any marks. Of course, you can make marks if you really try, but all we're going to do is just scrape a bit. And if anything goes into the cylinders, not a big deal. You compress air and we'll blow that out. So we want all the old gasket material off here. We want to clean off the studs, and then we'll degrease the whole area, of course, before. But this is not really a fun job. It's just a matter of cleaning up the area, making it look nice. So while I do that, through the magic of editing, you will see this all cleaned up in a second. With the block really nice and clean now, time to put the head gasket on. Whenever you pick up a head gasket, just visually inspect it, make sure there's nothing wrong with it. This one looks really good. It's a paying gasket set, and these usually don't have the word top printed on them. However, the side with the most metal goes down, because on a later block you will have like passages between the heads, and this will help seal that part. But this is a Series 2 engine, and it goes this way. There we go. I've cleaned all the threads as well on the studs, and I've made sure that they're all good and all the way down, all the way down in the thread. Sorry, I can't really talk today. Just checked with the vice grip on them that they want to go down, but they don't want to go down. I don't know what's going on, but there we go. These gaskets seal really well, because the first time they warm up, all this sort of red stuff on here is some sort of silicone that all melts, and it seals very nicely. All right, so we're really close here. I've lifted it in, stood here in the middle, and we're like not even millimeters away from being on all the pins. So just wiggling everything really carefully, making sure that there we go, starting to hit everything. Make sure your cam sprockets aren't getting stuck. They will get stuck on things, but that could be where you're stuck. And now, cylinder head is stuck here on the back. That was the same case when I took the other one off. There we go. Now it's the damn cam sprockets. Let me get a little mini pry bar in there. They always end up getting a little bit stuck. There's one. And there's the other one. Just try and hold them out of the way. There we go. One cylinder head in place, and yet you can do it alone. If you don't have the bonnet in place and the radio, just step in. I just slid over carefully and I stood sort of on the cross member, and seems to worked pretty well. Next thing to do is clean up around here, and we're going to measure how far these threads stick up, because I just want to make sure that we do everything correct with the washers, because you don't want the acorn nuts to bottom out. So I'm going to go through, measure all of that, make sure none of them will bottom out, and then we'll start torquing the head down. So here's what I was talking about. These are domed or acorn nuts. And if you take a pair of calipers and you measure how deep they go. Pretty far, actually. But there, that gives a little bit of room. It's 23 mil, which means if any of these are above 23 mil, we have a problem. And none of them are. Perfect. I put the lifting hooks back where they were before, and they all have washers as well. So let's say a washer on there, one that's pretty tall, there's still space. You can always double up on washers as well. I'm going to clean off these nuts because I forgot to, and the washers, and we'll start just hand threading it all on. There's two schools of thought. Some like to put a little bit of oil on the threads, some don't. If I use it, I use just a tiny bit amount. I might use a spray lubricant. I really don't want anything to go down and damage the head gasket before it's all torqued down. But I have cleaned these all off, and you see, check that they can all thread on easily by hand. If they can, well, it's not going to be any issue when you torque it down. So that's what I'm going to do now. I'll take one of the nuts here, and I'll thread it on every single one, make sure it threads on nicely all the way down by hand. See, that one doesn't. So that'll have to be cleaned a little bit more. Go through them all, blow everything off with compressed air again, and then we'll start reassembling. Just a quick break from the action to let you guys know that if you're watching the video pretty much as it's come out or a week or so after, I still have wall calendars for sale for 2025. They're on the Living with a Classic website. There's a link down below. They'll all start shipping out on the 10th of December. So get yours now. There's a link down below, and everything, you know, goes back into the channel to help make nice videos for you guys. So back to the action. These are all hand tightened down, and I double checked again with the calipers. Everything is fine. I moved the lifting hooks because originally that one was here, but these four were the longer studs, and they always go on the longer studs. Whoever built the engine sort of decides that where you want to put them. Most Series 2 and earlier Series 3 have them on this side. Some earlier cars have them on this side. Some have two longer in the middle over. So I like to put them on the longer ones at least. If you don't, you will end up having to use quite a few washers on the longer ones. Now it's time to tighten it up. Tighten it to 54 foot-pounds, which is about 75 Newton meters. I've set my torque wrench to 40 to start with, and we'll do in sequence. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is the first one, and then it's really just a spiral pattern out. There we go. And we're going to continue. Then there are some small ones at the front, and you just tighten them down in the end. There we go. And then it is number 3. And then number 4. So yeah, not too much really anything difficult. So I'll continue here. Then I'll torque it all the way up to 75 Newton meters for 54 foot-pounds. And then it's time for the sprockets and some other things. Well, that's it for this part. We have the cylinder head on. It's all torqued down. Next time you see this car, we'll hopefully have it running, get the carbs on, exhaust manifold, everything, change the oil, put coolant in it, and hopefully fire it up. So if you want to see that, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Anyways, until next time, I'm Adam. This is Living with a Classic. I'll see you soon.